So we've been talking about the Noble Eightfold Paths for a couple of months now, and I think we should be coming to the end of the lecture. And then after the Eightfold Path, hopefully we can start with the Diamond Sutra. A lot of people have heard about the Diamond Sutra. Then we can start with it, but in the Diamond Sutra, we will attempt just a general outline talk on the Diamond Sutra, because the Diamond Sutra is quite long, and it takes maybe a year to finish it, but we plan not to take a year. We just do a general outline. But for now, we have covered the Eightfold Path. We have covered quite a bit. Maybe just do a very general review. What are these Eightfold Paths? It's right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right efforts, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So the Buddha said these are the Eightfold Paths that practitioner of enlightenment will be treading on to become sages. This is a saintly path. Now, what is right view? Right view is the view based on the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. What are the Four Noble Truths? We should know what a Four Noble Truth is. This is a very basic concept of what the Buddha taught us. Suffering, causes of suffering, cessation of suffering, and method leading to the cessation of suffering. This is a very basic concept. The other day, I was lecturing in the lecture hall in the cafeteria, and we discussed the concept of suffering. And there was this one lady, a very young lady, maybe 23, 24, and because suffering, almost during the lecture, almost everybody know life is suffering. Of course, we didn't deal with it in detail as to why life is suffering. So we take it for granted that everybody know, and then I just finalized it with one final question. I said, anybody who does not agree, and she raises her hand and said, I don't agree. Life is not suffering. Life is happiness. It's not suffering to me. And I think you're all wrong. You're very pessimistic, very negative, and I don't like it. Well, it is surprising because everybody in the lecture room knows about suffering, and we take it for granted that we don't have to deal with it in detail. And I was trying to make it very brief in my explanation. The more I try to make it brief to convince her, the more she objected to it. She stood up again and said, no, life is not suffering. And she ended up leaving with unhappiness. So there was one lady who said, are you happy now when you're leaving? Of course, that's suffering again. But anyway, suffering, I don't blame the lady later for it, on second thought. I only blame myself. Why? Because, first of all, I shouldn't have instigated such a basic concept, because I presume naively that everybody know about suffering in the class, because these people have been in the class for a long time, and I didn't realize there was one first-time comer. And to a young lady who is in courtship, there was a boyfriend by the side, and who maybe she's been brought up in a rosy garden. She hadn't had any suffering before. The parents provide everything, schooling and taken care of, and if the family is quite well-to-do, driving a nice car, and living in a nice house, maybe going to a nice school, and now being 21, 22 in courtship with a boyfriend. What is suffering? Who cares? There's no suffering. Well, she hasn't experienced suffering. She hasn't experienced any death in the family. As a matter of fact, maybe I think later we'll find out, maybe she hasn't experienced any death among friends either. So there's no death. And I think when the boyfriend was leaving with her, the boyfriend made a comment. And it was naive, but it was meaningful. He said, yeah, sickness is suffering. I was sick in the hospital, but when somebody visited me, I feel happy. So I'm happy. Somebody visited me, I feel happy. How come you say it is suffering? It's true, when somebody visits you and you feel happy for that short little time. And so sometimes it's very difficult to convince people if they don't have experienced about it. So let's get back to this Four Noble Truths. The Buddha laid out the Four Noble Truths to us. And this, he said, truths. What are these truths? World is a world of suffering. Of course we have happiness. Sometimes we're happy. How can you say we're suffering all the time? But ultimately, when you analyze the world in detail, you will know that it's imperfect. Imperfection. Look at yourself, look at ourselves. We've gone through, we'll be going through, we've been given birth, with sickness, birth is suffering, sickness is suffering, aging is suffering. This is especially true for senior people. If you are young, if you're very young, you don't know the suffering of being old. It's like a machine. When you're a new car, unless it's a defective car right out from the factory, if it is a normal car, you can drive it for a number of years, no problem with it. You're under warranty. And as time goes on, after 15 years, 16 years, the car would not work anymore. Problems everywhere, in the carburetor, in the brake, or in almost every part of it has problem. You're not under warranty too. No more warranty to you. You're on your own. The body is like that. When you're getting old, problems come out. Some people may not have the time to get old. It just breaks down. Have you heard of young people who died of sickness, accidents? Athletic people. I know athletic people who jog every day, who specialize good at almost many sports, and all of a sudden he contracted a terminal disease and he dies. And before he dies, he suffered emotionally. A sports guy. And how come he dies? And not only he suffered, his relatives, his friends, all agonized for him. That's not suffering? Isn't that suffering? So sickness is suffering, aging is suffering, death is, of course. Who can escape death? And then the lady said, yeah, everybody dies, so what? Everybody dies, everybody gets old, everybody gets sick. I don't find that suffering at all. Well, in my mind, I said, the time will come when you will suffer. And then the time will come when you think about suffering and say, oh, the monk is right, life is suffering. Some people have to wait until they suffer, then they know. When people tell you, don't go to that direction, it's a direction of misery. And you say, how do I know? I got to go through it to find out. They really have to go through the misery to find out what is misery. Only the wise people, they know, oh yeah, that's a cliff in there. I shouldn't walk in there. But some people, They just don't listen to you. They just walk in there and some of them fall. The lucky ones, they may get hurt and come back to you and they say, oh yeah, I know, I learned the hard way. So suffering, unable to satisfy one's desires. There's always insatiable desires. You want to get an A, but you fail all the time in your course. You want to get into university, but you never get accepted. You want to get a better job, but you can't. You want to get good education, but somehow a lot of factors prevent you from getting one. You want to be born into a rich family, but unfortunately you were born in a poor family. You want to be born into a family where the parents are responsible, where the father is responsible, the mom is loving and compassionate. But unfortunately, you were born in a family where the father is a drunkard, is a wino. He beats you up, where the mom doesn't care. Isn't that suffering for the kid? And then the kid later has to be put in the foster home. I've seen a lot of that. I've heard a lot of that. If you are not one of them, you don't feel suffering at all because it doesn't happen to you. Only the compassionate ones, only people who are volunteers to these organizations, only people who are volunteers to help out people who suffered, they know what suffering is, even though they haven't gone through it. So I always suggest people to go to work as volunteers in different charitable organizations, hospitals, hospice care, and homes for sick children, home for the elderly. Be volunteers in prison camps too. Can you go there? When I was in Hong Kong last trip, I heard that my tapes were being played in prisons. My lectures, occasionally, they played it in the cafeteria in prisons. And the prisoners listened to tapes, about Buddhism. And they told me that arrangement that I can make to go to prisons to lecture to them. I like it. And they're longing for information. They're longing for people who tell them what they should do, tell them what is right, what is wrong, to tell them, is there any hope in life, is there any more opportunity outside, or what they should do to be happier. Prisoners. Some of them become prisoners not from birth. It's because of environments, coincidences that make them become prisoners. Broken homes, drunken father, irresponsible moms. That's suffering. So, talk about suffering. That lady should really come to our lecture. She doesn't have the causality to listen more. So that's why I said I blame myself, because sometimes I said I shouldn't have instigated so that she can listen more without departing in the middle of the lecture. Now she has to wait through, she experienced suffering to find out. So how lucky we are. If we can listen to something wise, listen to something that's good for your spiritual life, wouldn't that be, is that a coincidence? No, that's not a coincidence. You build up the factors to come here. Causality, the next concept is causation. The fact that you are here today is not out of coincidence. There's many, many reasons, many causes that make you coming here, that make you become interested in the spirituality of life. You want to find out more about life. Not just cutting your sirloin, New York pork chop, steak, lobsters, oysters, drink your whiskey and brandy, go on holidays, watch late shows, fooling around, partying, talking on phones. Not just that. Is life just that? Find out the spirituality of life, something higher. Why am I in this world? Where am I going after I die? Why do I come to this world? What's the reason for me coming to this world at all? And then go through this 100 years of my life, and then finally I have to go. Where will I go from here? Do we have to find out more about these things? The Buddha found out, and he told us everything. Do you care to find out about what the Buddha discovered? Or you just want to find out how much you make in your job? You should have a promotion. It's not fair for the boss to pay you that much. You should have more. Your colleagues are not treating you fairly. You have a lot of enemies. You hate them. Discrimination, jealousy, hatred, greediness. Isn't that what we got in the society most of the time? I'm not negative. They are good ones. They're good people. Not just the negative people. They're good people. I can count a lot of good people in here. But what's the proportion of good people? Why? Another question is, why are some people good and some people bad? Why do I have to encounter meeting these bad people? Can I meet all good people? Can I have good people surrounding me without bad guys? And then we find out more and more, and we know karma. Karma. What is karma? So, let's get back to Four Noble Truths. Suffering. Aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering. Agonizing on the death of your beloved ones, your friends, is suffering. Unable to satisfy your desire, your needs, is suffering. There's always something you can't satisfy. Living with hated ones is suffering. Your interaction with people you don't like. This is just the individual perspective of suffering in you. But how about the broad perspective? Unforeseen earthquake, tsunami. How many people die in earthquake? Thousands. Did they suffer, or they should be doomed for it? They deserve it? Why do people suffer in natural disasters? Many natural disasters. How about international wars? Human killing each other. For what? Let's start with the family. How come we have family stripes, disputes, crimes, murders, rapes? Societies. How come societies have all these things? Discriminations, jealousy, hatred. How come we wage wars? First World War, Second World War, millions and millions of victims. What's the motive? Why did humans kill each other? Why did humans kill animals? 4,200 billion domesticated animals get killed every year, according to statistics. My statistics may be wrong, but you can find out from some internet website. And every day, how many animals humans are killing for food, for fur? What do we do to the environments? What do we do to the environments of other countries? More developed countries have all the products manufactured abroad in other countries. making pollution in other countries so as their countries can be free from pollution. Isn't that selfishness? Well, what are all these things? Are we not going to talk about and research deeply into this? Are they not suffering? Well, if we talk about suffering, we can talk and analyze in detail. Suffering starting from the individual. Suffering physically, suffering emotionally. We don't just have physical suffering, How about emotional suffering? How many people suffer from depression? How many people suffer from anxieties, disappointment? How many people they can't control themselves and committing suicide? I'm not being negative. They're good people. They're good lives. They're people who are compassionate. They're good organizations. Of course, they're the wise ones. They're the ones who help others. But how about the proportion? Can we make everybody a little bit more perfect? What did the Buddha say about this? How do we purify the world? So, suffering. The Buddha said, yes, we have suffering. We analyze the world and we know there's suffering, but that's not enough. We have to find out why. So there's causes of suffering. And I'm not going to deal with it in detail, otherwise I can't finish it today. Causes of suffering. And then the Buddha said, there's a way to end this suffering, cessation of suffering. The Buddha said, once you know the causes of suffering, then we can end it. We have methods to stop this suffering. So there's methods for the cessation of suffering. So these are the Four Noble Truths. So it works, it analyzed the world from being negative to being very positive. Yes, we have suffering, but we're going to improve. We're going to find out why. We're going to resolve the problem. We're going to stop it. When you stopped it, we don't have any suffering anymore. Isn't that working from negative to being as positive as possible? So if you just listen to suffering and you leave, you haven't got the whole picture. You have to have the patience to sit down and listen more about it. Unfortunately, causality does not make it happen to that lady. She just left. She didn't have any patience to listen more. I had a similar incident before in this hall. The only difference is that guy slammed the door and this lady didn't. When he went out, he just slammed the door. This lady didn't slam the door, fortunately. So, right view, you should know about Four Noble Truths, causation, impermanence, karma, and insubstantiality of existence of the ego. How about right thought? Renunciation of craving, because we have craving and desires and greediness, hatred and ignorance. We renunciate them. Renunciation of attachment to the five skandhas. What are the five skandhas? Matter or form, matter, perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. We need to study these things, these concepts. And then you have right speech, avoidance of lying, cursing, tattletelling, flattery, frivolous talks, the karma that's been created from our mouth. A lot of karma created by each individual, us. Right action, restraint from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and misuses of the senses. Right livelihood, avoidance of professions that are harmful to sentient beings, such as slaughterer, hunter, a dealer in weaponry and narcotics. All these are not right. We should abstain from doing it. So this right livelihood. Right efforts, application of diligence, perseverance, and consistencies to our practice. That's right efforts. Right mindfulness, ongoing mindfulness of the body, feeling, mind, and objects of thought. And I've been talking about right mindfulness, and I would like to, for the next 10 minutes before I call an end to this Dharma talk, I would like to finish right mindfulness. So, right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right efforts, right mindfulness, and right concentration, the Eightfold Path. If you don't know about it, try to read it up in internet, in library, try to borrow a book and find out more about information. If this is the first time you'll listen to it. And next time I'll be talking on right concentration, and now I will be finishing up right mindfulness. And what is right mindfulness? We've been talking about in the last 2 lectures. Right mindfulness, basically, there's 4 foundations of mindfulness. And people here have heard about it, and we have already learned it, but it's good to regurgitate and talk a little bit more about it. It's contemplation. There's 4 contemplation, or the foundation of mindfulness. It's contemplation of the body, contemplation of feeling, contemplation of the mind, and contemplation of mental objects. In the Chinese language is 观身不净, 观受是苦, 观心无常, 观法无我. You have to know the foundations of mindfulness. Always be mindful of what you're doing. In this meditation that we have this morning, what do? We are mindful. Every second we are mindful, even in the walking. So when you're walking, when you are doing walking meditation, you don't browse around and think about other things. You just concentrate. I'm mindful of my walking movement. You don't label things and start to think about other things. You just be mindful of what you're doing. And when you're meditating, you're mindful of the breath, so you're always mindful. If you're mindful, your mind is under control, it's under your control. If you're not mindful, then it's not under your control. At least that monkey has to be leashed so that monkey won't do the wrong thing. Criminals, most of them, they don't have their mind under control. They get mad, and that's why they commit crime. When you're yelling, when you're shouting, when you're stealing, when you're committing sexual misconduct, you're not being mindful of your action. You don't know you did the wrong thing. Adultery. Why did you do that? You're being unlawful, unloyal to your husband, to your wife, because you don't care. You don't have the concept of right and wrong. So you have to be mindful, ongoing mindfulness. So what is contemplation of the body? For people who always involved in sensual pleasure, who always have that, or have that idea of men and women in your mind all the time. Some people are like that. They indulge in that kind of thing. And then you have to apply this technique, contemplation of the body. The body is impure. But we attach to it. We love it so much. You love not only your own body, the body of others. And the body is impure. Why? Because the sutra says, now I would not go into detail of mindfulness. I just give you an outline. Otherwise today I can't finish. I want to go on to the Diamond Sutra. Plus, there's a lot of people here who already have studied the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The body is impure. There are methods to meditate on it. And I have already mentioned previously on the methods of contemplation of impurity. Remember the mindfulness and the in and out breathing, the 4-fold posture, mindfulness and complete awareness, contemplation on the impurity of the body, contemplation on the 4 elements, and contemplation on the 9 channel grounds. People here have already learned it, so they should know. And if you don't know, you review your notes. The body is impure with 36 parts. When you analyze the body, hair of the body, hair of the head, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, bones, marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, spleen, lungs, blood, feces, bile, pus, sweat, tears, urine. You analyze physically the body is impure. You think it is pure, but it's impure. It's just like a bag with openings. On the one end, you put food in. On the other hand, on the other end, the food comes out as already assimilated remains of food. And you do that every day. It's impure. The body is impure. So contemplation of the body, it includes mindfulness of inhalation and exhalation, as bodily posture, walking, standing, sitting, and lying. That's why we also have walking meditation. Clarity of the mind during all activities, contemplation of the 32 parts of the body as impure, analysis of the body elements as solidity, fluidity, heat, and motion, the 4 elements. We all learned that already. Through this, the practitioner's conception of a unitary permanent self disappears. Your attachment to indulgence in sensual pleasure disappeared. It's because of your attachment to sensual or sexual pleasures that you involve in sexual misconduct, involved in a lot of misdeeds, and you don't know about it. Next is contemplation of feeling. One recognizes feelings as pleasant, unpleasant, or indifferent. When you're meditating, in the Chinese language is 观受是苦. When you're meditating, when a pleasant feeling comes up, oh, you know it's a pleasant feeling. The pleasant feeling sustain and remain, and then you know it's a pleasant feeling. You don't attach to the pleasant feeling disappeared. And when you're meditating, an unpleasant feeling comes up. I feel anxiety. All of a sudden, I have anxiety inside. I have disappointment. I have depression. I have an emotional upheaval in me. I think of my mom who passed away. I feel agonizing about it. I think of people who mistreated me, who abused me when I was a child, and I hated it. That hatred comes up in me. That hatred, that's an unpleasant feeling. When you're meditating, that hatred comes up. Oh, and let the hatred continue. No, that's an unpleasant feeling. I'm not attaching to it. I let it go. I let it go, and it disappears. So in the process of meditation, this feeling comes up, you deal with it. If you train yourself in dealing with these kind of feelings, you won't be carried away by emotions. Why do you get emotions? Why you cry? Why do you get mad? Why you curse? Because you do not control your own feeling. You don't know how to. But when you're meditating, you train yourself in doing it. Now I get angry. I feel angry. I feel the pride. Somebody hurt my pride. I feel the prejudice, the pride and pride. Some people prejudice me. Some people discriminate me. Some people hurt me. And I hated it. Oh, this is a feeling of hatred. I shouldn't get involved with this hatred. I let it go. I let it go. I'm not being carried away by it. It won't help me. It won't help me. So you let it go, let it go, let it go. Oh, it's disappearing now. It's disappearing. Of course, it would come back again. But you keep on doing that. You keep on doing that, then you won't be involved, indulge in your own emotion. When you train yourself so much, it won't come back again. Oh, that hatred, it comes up. No, it won't come up. I don't get carried away by it. I let it go. When it comes up, I immediately let it go. There's no hatred. There's no anger. There's no jealousy. So every state of mind, so your mind is either greedy or ungreedy. Every state of mind, when it comes up, not just pleasant and unpleasant feeling or indifferent, it goes into detail now. Every state of mind when you're meditating, when it comes up, every thought comes up when you're meditating, then you noted it. You note it. Oh, here comes a thought. Here comes a thought of jealousy. You take note of it. You don't let it influence you. contemplation of every state of the mind when you're meditating. You're being mindful of it. You get it under control. That monkey is under control. That does not mean that when you let all these emotions go, that does not mean that you are being negative. You are a coward. I gotta beat up that guy because he hurt me. That is using retaliation, using violence against violence. That is exactly what most people committed in wars. They use violence against violence. If you use compassion, your whole heart is full of compassion. There's no violence. There's no violence in you internally. The heat of compassion dissolves the snow of hatred. No more snow. When the sun comes out, no more snow. It's all melted away. The power of the heat, the power of the sun dissolves all the hatred. That's more powerful than using hatred against hatred, wars against wars. So, contemplation of the mind, every state of the mind, you keep note of it. You watched it. That's what we call in Zen, watch your mind. The meditators always say, hey, did you watch your mind? Watch your mind. Every state of the mind, you watched it. Actually, it's very, very enjoyable when you watch your own every state of the mind. And sometimes people ask, why are some monks who meditators, they feel happy all the time? Because they got all the state of mind under control. When people get mad, they don't get mad, they just say, oh, you get mad? They don't feel that you should get mad. Because when they note every state of the mind, the negative state of the mind, when they get note of that, they get it under control, they turn the negativism of the mind into positive. Everything is compassion, everything is kindness, everything is loving kindness, everything is for the people. No more hatred, no more hardship for yourself. If we know that, you're free from suffering. You can only be free from suffering when your mind is free. You can never stop suffering of yourself or others when the mind is not free. Liberate the mind from suffering. Not liberating your emotions. Liberating your emotions would hurt somebody. You curse, you fight, you yell. You hurt yourself when you hurt somebody. But if you liberate your mind, none of those, no more. That's the power of the sun. Not the power of the heater to blow heat at snow. You can only dissolve part of it. The power of the sun dissolves every particle of the snow. So this contemplation of the mind is all powerful, you know. The power of the mind is in you. A lot of people ask. In some other religions, they pay a lot of attention to charity work. They build hospitals, they build homes, they build schools. And it seems that in Buddhism, they don't do that extensively. How come? But we should know, building a hospital, it's just like you save one lifetime. Somebody gets sick, you build a hospital to nurture him or her until she recovers again. You're only saving the physical life of one physical life. But the Buddha said, our life is not just one discrete unit, the present life. It's a continuation. So we should be aiming at saving the infinity of life, the ultimate life. It's just like when you're helping a country of poor people, you always supply the provisions, supply food, supply money, supply all kinds of things to help that particular life. But you can't continuously help like that. You have to find out, why did the country get poor? Because they didn't have universal education in the country. You correct the country's poverty by getting to the reason, the cost of it. Get the education to that country so that they don't have to depend on you to save just one life. The life of wisdom, that's the most important. The life of infinity. So we should be saving. The Buddha saved the infinity of life. The Buddha saved your life so that you don't have to go through reincarnation again. What's the use of helping you just one life? You go into the loop of reincarnation, helping you in another life, helping you in the third life, fourth life, fifth life. The Buddha lifted your life from reincarnation and put you in infinity. No more reincarnations, no more physical life. Isn't that more important? It's just like when you improve the poverty of a country, give everybody the education. Not just giving them rice, wheat every month. You won't save them permanently. Get to the crux of the problem. Contemplation of mental objects is basically Guan Fa Wu Wo. There's no ego. You think you have a self. But if your contemplation of phenomena, if you know how to contemplate on it, finally you find out that there's no ego. We're attached to the ego, but there isn't any ego. Insubstantiality of the self. It's because of the attachment to ego that we're involved with many, many mental defilements. So mindfulness deals with all these things about your mind. Your mind. Do you care about your own mind? So, at the beginning of the session I said, for those who come here to listen to what the Buddha taught, I'm just a recorder repeating what is in Buddhism. Anyone who listened to the Buddha's teaching, they must be blessed because it contains a lot of wisdom in it about how to improve life of yourself, of your mind, and improve others. Not about blind faith to the Buddha, not about just worshipping Buddha, not about that. About how to improve yourself, how to analyze yourself, how to know your own mind, how to achieve happiness. Not just the one life happiness that lady was talking about, not just one period happiness, about permanent happiness, about getting away from reincarnation, getting away from poverty, liberate your mind. Not just live this one lifetime, one discrete life. Lift yourself, liberate yourself, emancipate yourself from poverty, emancipate yourself from suffering. Only you yourself can do it. Buddha can only suggest to you what to do. You have to tread the path, the Eightfold Path. You have to walk the paths yourself. Nobody can. You yourself, you have to walk the path yourself.